She'd had it tough. Tough almost as Porfirio. Virginia didn't remember much about him at all, not even his name. A visit once when she was only 4, her mother telling her that she was going to meet her real father. A terrible fight, a stuffed dog for a present. Virginia still had the dog somewhere. Its eyes had gone missing after a couple of years of her slobbering around with it. Now, it was mostly memories of memories implanted by her mother before the man who raised her, who called himself her father, a trucker named Benny Boy Lopez, came on the scene. Benny Boy was terrible jealous, and he didn't want Celia's ex-husband name even mentioned in his house. He'd even objected to the stuffed animal, and that suited Virginia's mom just fine, so she'd taken it from the little girl and put it away, telling Virginia she could play with it when her new daddy wasn't home. But that didn't mean her mom never brought up her real father. When Celia got to feeling lonely and angry, she told Virginia that men were for shit. Benny Boy was no kind of man, but he was better than the soulless sack of shit her real father was. That's what she called Porfirio, her real father. As if using his given name was beneath contempt. She'd say, your real father was nothing but a no-account druggie, wife-slugging, whoremongering son of a bitch and jailbird. And if he'd had been able to just keep his nose clean for 10 minutes, the two of us wouldn't be beholden to Benny Boy Lopez. Her mom wanted Virginia to know that all failure, all suffering could and should be attributed to her real father. But to Virginia, real father seemed an inviting, mysterious, possibly even benign figure who, compared to Benny Boy, a man who graduated from hugging her a bit too tightly as she started to develop her formidable chi-chis to becoming into her bedroom at night and doing way worse. A man whom she loathed so much that nightly in the mirror in her room she looked fearfully for any subtle resemblances that might have possibly asserted themselves, not through genetics, but through some horrible osmotic exposure to the man. Benny Boy would wake her up in the middle of the night, dragging her from her sleep, the one place of refuge in her miserable teen life, and tell her that she needed to appreciate just how much old Benny Boy had done for her, the little ungrateful wretch. He'd sit there, recounting how hard he worked and how bad his ass hurt from all the driving and how his shoulders cramped all over on the countless 1,000 miles he had to drive, and nobody waiting at home to give Benny Boy Lopez the small favor of a goddamn shoulder rub. And wasn't she goddamn ashamed of how she was turning out like that bitch of a mother of hers? Well, where was that bitch of a mother of hers anyway? Out on the fucking town with a horde of other no-account bitches of a mother who should have been the goddamn decency to be home giving their husbands a shoulder rub. That's where. When her mother told her that Benny Boy was gone for good, something wonderful happened. As Celia wept on her shoulder, Virginia started to laugh, and not gently or in an embarrassed, muffled way. No, the laugh was from the belly, and it shook her body so that her shoulders convulsed, and Celia was knocked from the drunken, self-pitying embrace. She stared at her daughter and finally said, wiping the tears away, "Just what's so funny, huh? What's so funny?" she yelled. And Virginia couldn't find the breath to answer. Huh? What's so funny? And it took all Virginia had to muster up and halt to laugh and ask in an even more important way, "Am I even yours? Are you sure you're my mother? Maybe you stole me from a truck stop. Tell me you stole me from the grocery store when my real parents were looking at a box of cereal or something." Virginia walked out and got drunk with her only friend, Carmen, who told her, "Boy, Virginia, you're lucky, so lucky that at least Benny Boy Lopez isn't your flesh and blood." And Virginia told her, "I don't care how long it takes, I'm going to find my real father." And the two best friend girls sat on the stone bench at the little shit-ass park in their shit-ass neighborhood on the shit-ass outskirts of shit-ass Opelousas, Louisiana, drinking the cheap wine Virginia had taken from the fridge, the last thing Benny Boy Lopez was likely to ever provide her. But what was there to do, really? She told her long-lost brother in that Houston coffee shop. "I went back home. There wasn't anywhere to run. Mom went down the rabbit hole and didn't give much of a damn about what I did or where I went. She broke down, but it seemed to me that she'd been looking for a place and a reason to break down all her life. I guess I can't blame her too much." Virginia looked at the bowl of her pregnant belly. "People are meant to break down. Some of them last longer than others. That's what I figured out so far. Mom spent a lifetime trying to find somewhere to lay down and just get it over with. Thank God for food stamps and Walmart, because I got a job there as soon as they let me, and I brought in just enough to keep the light and water running. For the next 2 years, she found out all she could about her real father. She didn't expect a miracle, no Sir Lancelot, but he had to be better than Benny Boy Lopez. That wasn't too tall an order. All he had to be, really, was the guy who cared enough to bring her a stuffed dog that one time. Having no help from her mother, Virginia became a kind of sleuth, looking through her mom's stuff, her drawers, her clothes, trying to find that secret place. You know the place, the secret place. But she found nothing. Her mom wasn't the type to keep a diary. She was more of a type that blubbered it out in fits and starts while she swayed in her grimy chair, feeling sorry for herself until she got to the juicy parts, the parts that Virginia might be able to use to find her real father. Celia would climb up and tell her, "It's for your own good. I haven't been much of a mama to you, but at least I can keep you from more heartbreak." She'd say this as if more heartbreak wasn't the soup of the day already. She just kept getting fatter and fatter, as if she were feeding on all that heartbreak, just like she was supping on her dark little secrets, the choice ones, the meaty ones, the cheese-stuffed crust of her dark secrets, and she wasn't about to share. One night she was drunk as usual, Virginia said, calling me all sorts of names, telling me how I was going to wind up just like her, pregnant from a son of a bitch like Porfirio Silvio Fuentes. I didn't say anything. My heart was racing because now I had a name, his name. My real father's name wasn't Joe or Juan or Carlos or Bob. Porfirio. The sound of it was a hell of a lot more intoxicating than a bottle of Benny Boy's cheap wine. Porfirio. 4 important syllables, like a name out of a history book, the name of a king in some Latin country, maybe like a writer, a philosopher, a soldier, a general in some foreign army. Maybe Porfirio Silvio Fuentes was out there waiting for her. That's all she could think about. She Googled his full name, but nothing came up. Then she tried just his first name. He who is dressed in purple. That's what it meant. The name that popped up again and again was Porfirio Diaz, this Mexican dictator who was a major bastard. But there were pictures of him, and she got to imagining her Porfirio looked a little like the evil Porfirio. A big white mustache and deep sad eyes, and he dressed in purple. The day before she turned 18, her mother finally found a way to get her out of Opelousas. Maybe it was a birthday present, Virginia said. Maybe Mom thought, that girl hates me so much, I'll give her something she can really use. And Mom took a couple of handfuls of some pills. She used to fall asleep. Pills she picked up from some shit ass at the bar she practically lived at. The ambulance came. The fire department, too. It was a mess her mom left. The cops asked some questions, took some notes, all the while the EMS and coroner taking some vitals and pronouncing her dead, and taking some pictures for God knows what. They took her in a gurney, pulling a yellow body bag over her huge carcass, and Virginia kept wondering, why don't they just put a white sheet over her like they do on TV? A cop, old with a mustache, asked her, "You got kin, anybody we can call? How old are you anyway?" And she said, "I'm 18, even though she wasn't 18 yet. And then she noticed the clock said it was after midnight now, so yeah, she was 18. And the cop told her he could call child services, but she said she had an aunt in Baton Rouge, and she could come down and get her, and even though it wasn't true, the cop looked around and decided to go. As soon as it had got as quickly as it had gotten crowded, the house was now empty. Nobody but her in the house, her and the stink her mother had left. There was no denying it, the stink. Her mom's sweaty bedclothes, her dirty bed sheets in which she'd taken her last shit when the sleeping pills had kicked in. I was like a zombie, moving out of control, like not herky-jerky like a movie zombie, but like a slowed-down robot type, kind of retarded. She went into her mom's room and stripped off the shitty sheets, wrapped up her gown and slippers in it, and then for good measure grabbed all Celia's personal things. Her cheap perfume and Walmart makeup, her pink acrylic hairbrush with the clear plastic bristles tangled with too many black dyed strands. She tried to count them for some reason, the smell of her mother's shampoo and hairspray radiating a vague, nostalgic memory. Virginia took all that shit and swept it up into a pillowcase, and then she wrapped that up in shitty sheets. And she dragged the bundle into the garbage can outside, but it wouldn't fit. And so she packed it in the broke-down old Honda they shared and drove the stinking bundle to the Walmart distribution center. She moved her to the back lot, chucked it into one of those enormous green dumpsters. You want to know the funny part, she told Daniel? I got caught. I was chunking the stuff into the dumpster, the high side of it, and I had to get some real momentum going to get it over. So I was swinging the shit back and forth, back and forth, each one getting higher and higher. And just as I let go of the thing, one of those cop spotlights went on. And I turned right into the blinding light. And I couldn't make out a thing. And this shadow comes through the light, walking up slow, taking his time to look in the car to see if there was anyone else in there. And he got up to my window, and I guess that's when I noticed he was a skinny kid. He knew her because she worked there, and he knew the parking decal on the back of her car. Dumping stuff here will get you fired, you know, he said. That's when she broke down crying. The first she cried since she came home and found her mother in her shitty bedclothes. Her mouth open like the mouth of that big green dumpster, her slobber still wet and clean. He thought she was crying because she'd been caught, but he wasn't a tough guy. He liked to come off tough because he was so lanky and he hated being lanky. But when he saw her in tears, he rushed back to his car and turned the spotlight off. He came back and apologized to Virginia. "Hey, look, I'm not going to bust you," he said, trying to make her quit crying. She only cried harder. "It's just you're not supposed to be dumping stuff here. Jesus, don't sweat it. I'm not going to turn you in." But his being decent only made Virginia sob louder. And he put his hand on her shoulder. And she put her forehead on the steering wheel between her hands. And she told him about finding her dead mother. And all he could say was, "Jesus, Jesus, you all right? Are you all right? Jesus." Thank you. That's